More Than Rich podcast. Today I'm joined with Jeremy Bryant, a master of all things paranormal. Together, we're going to explore mysteries and supernatural, how we can influence our views on wealth and success. So welcome, and let's dive into a rich conversation. What's up, Jeremy?
What's going on, man? Not much. Just another day podcasting, living the dream.
Dude, I saw that you have like 3 podcasts. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? That's a lot of work.
I'm technically on 4 right now. I've been on I've been on 5 or 6 at a time before too, but technically on 4 right now. My main solo one is Paranormal New Normal, which is just my love for the paranormal and talking to different people in the paranormal, spiritual, or supernatural world. Great interviews on that. Almost around 200 episodes. I'm not sure exactly how many. I lost count, but
Damn.
My other show I had to do with a co-host is Maniacal Music Musings, and it's a album challenge show. A great way to learn about new music you never heard of before. And the show I started all this on with many co-hosts is called Bracket Bastards. And we basically take down a bracket or a tournament of different topic every week. And we've been doing that for 2.5 years now.
Damn. That's pretty tight. So was there any like specific anything like as an ability that you were into or gained insight as a kid that you drew your interest into this?
Not really. I mean, I just was that kid that used to like to take out the book about Bigfoot in the library in elementary school.
Nice.
And it waned and came back over time again, but it just, by the end of the day, it was just something that always drew me back. So I had to go into it.
Yeah, I actually don't really consider how many people start off with like maybe something that seems more like harder to believe. And then it starts off like something super abstract, right? And then it leads you down a rabbit hole of things that are more like logical and real.
Yeah, you start off looking for Bigfoot and Nessie, and you end up just talking to psychics and mediums all the time, or people with different spiritual beliefs, and some great conversations have come out of that. I used to always think psychics were those weird people on Main Street with their little front of their house store where they would just give you
Same.
fake readings. But I've
Yeah.
learned now that these people really exist, and now more than ever, there's more of them than ever since spiritual awakenings have been happening in the last decade, and they're real. I've had them tell me things after on air and after we went off the air that just nobody could know. Nobody would know these things unless they had some kind of ability, because you can't Google this stuff.
Yeah, give me some examples of just some premonitional things that you feel are undeniable.
Oh, I mean, I would have them tell me that a certain spirit's in the room with me, and they would start describing it, and they would describe my relatives that are not really Googleable because some of them died 12, 14 years ago, and it's just they wouldn't be on Google like in any major way where you could find pictures of them. So it's just, and I've been warned about things that were coming, and those warnings were 100% correct. So it's just stuff that's undeniably true.
Damn. Yeah, one of the book I'm reading right now is about clairvoyance, and there's a lot of, well, I'll just go into the most recent thing I've been reading about it, is that thought transference is a real thing. And I'm curious about your perspective on that. And the best example that they have to describe it is the feeling that you get when you remember somebody's name, right? Like you can transfer your thoughts in a sense to somebody else.
I mean, basically, telekinetic speak is, I was just talking to someone the other day on my show, and they truly believe that, well, actually, yeah, I was talking to Leslie and Joseph Smith, or Leslie and Stephen Smith, I'm sorry. And they are UFO experts, and Stephen he's from a family that's been abducted by aliens for 3 generations.
Damn.
And we were discussing it, and we came to they have a theory, and I kind of can get in line with it. I feel like they were speaking truth when they said it, because what if all humans have the ability to talk through telekinesis, and we can all talk to each other through our minds, but we just lost it in time? What if we all originally had it, and we just lost it because we only use 10% of our brain? So what does the other 90% of our brain do that we don't know because we haven't unlocked the ability yet?
It's also kind of scary though, right? Because at that point you're feeling people's intentions on a like super vulnerable level, right? Like you probably would want to teach yourself to not think anything. And then people are just going off feelings at that point, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, but it also would prevent you from being taken advantage of, from being made a fool. If someone wanted to cause you physical or any kind of harm, you would sense it coming and you could save yourself. I mean, think about
Yeah,
all the times.
politicians would be super exposed too.
Talk about good things that come out of it, because
Yeah.
politicians. I was just talking about that with a guest yesterday, who is a Buddhist and Taoist teacher, guide, mentor. He studied the way of the Buddha, and politicians are not who they should be. Politicians are not people who these days are not people who are meant to lead. They're just people who get to lead because they have money or because they have influence and power.
It's real. Yeah, I'm curious on your thoughts on that. Like, if have you ever heard of like Jack Dynamite, for example?
Can't say I have.
He was like a person that was basically healing, and there's a commonality of like the deep spiritual meditation for years of practices to be able to gain these like insights into abilities, and they usually have these master trainers that they studied under. And I'm just wondering if you've heard any stories that are like this in terms of like gaining abilities and then like the responsibility behind it. Like you're not supposed to be like flexing these kinds of powers and stuff.
Well, look at what the hell's his name? Joe Edwards. Am I thinking of the right person? I think I am. But
I can search it. Go for
oh, I'm sorry, John Edwards. John Edwards,
it.
the famous TV psychic who would stand on a stage in front of a crowd of people. I'm getting a name that starts with an A or a name that starts with a B. And oh, this person was your aunt, your uncle, your grandfather. Like he would just
Interesting.
basically reach out trying to make the audience give him the answers he's looking for to make people believe he's psychic. But
Oh,
he is, I mean, as South Park put it, he is the biggest douche in the universe because he
damn.
was he was going off of people's false hopes and what they wanted to hear and just taking advantage of it. He was a
That
charlatan.
is that is as
Pure definition.
scummy as it gets. Yeah.
And he did it on TV. He did it live on TV all the time in the late '90s, early 2000s.
I never knew that. That's like when I was growing up, I guess.
I mean, and South Park did an episode on him where he actually won biggest douche in the universe by a committee of aliens that voted it.
Wow, it probably went over my head if I saw it. That's hilarious. That's good
I mean,
shit.
he was a charlatan. He's the truest definition of a charlatan who's giving all psychics a bad name by just existing.
But coming backwards a little bit though, what are your thoughts on that? Like in terms of like the abilities and then having spiritual teachers and things like that. Is that a commonality you find in your own studies?
I mean, people don't necessarily need to have mentors and teachers to embrace their psychic side. I've met people who just had it from a young age and they just trained throughout their childhood and their teenage years. And by the time they go to college, they usually can start mastering it somewhat. And they could, once they get through like the turmoil, the emotional turmoil of being a teenager, they usually can just come forth like almost like an X-Men. Like
Yeah.
when you hit puberty, you really can go into your abilities, and it's just amazing. It's amazing what they can do. I've Same with empaths, same with clairvoyant, people that can see the dead. Like they, when they're kids, they don't know what to think of it. They get scared, or they just think it's weird, and the parents 9 out of 10 times will shut them down and say, "Oh, just don't talk about it because you're gonna make yourself look weird." But
Not just that, but can you speak to the fact that I mean, just hearing what you're saying, right? Most people are like, yeah, I wasn't there, can't relate. Are there plenty of examples where you were like completely in disbelief, didn't want to believe the person like in front of you, or
no, because if you're willing to go on a podcast and talk about these abilities that you have, then I don't think you're going to be faking it. And that's why I like to do video, because I can look in their eyes and tell that they're not trying to lie to me. They're looking me straight in the eyes when they're telling me this. They're not trying to avert their gaze somewhere else because they know they're lying. Because, they say that whenever someone's lying, their eyes will look left. Like
interesting?
it's a mandatory thing that humans do. It's a mandatory reflex. And unless you're a true professional grifter or something, you have to train yourself to not do that. And these people have no reason to lie to me. Why would they lie to me? They're not getting paid to be in my show. They're not getting Hollywood fame for being in my show. It's just a podcast like 1,000 others. And most of them have been on hundreds of podcasts. So if you listen to each
What
one, it's probably gonna be close to the same story.
can you compare like maybe the most unique ability as opposed to maybe the one that's most common that you see?
I mean, mediums and psychics in general are pretty common nowadays. I mean, I've talked to God 100 of them at least, and I mean, mediums, psychics, clairvoyants, clairaudience. I'm putting them all in the same category because they all have
Yeah,
generally the same abilities.
yeah, I get
I
that.
mean, even those who talk through spirit guides, who talk through angels, archangels, like it's the same thing in a way. But I mean, alien abductees that are willing to speak, they are rare.
That's wild. Yeah.
They are rare. And I've only had a couple because they don't like to talk about it. They usually just want to be left alone. And I mean, look at the ones that go out and get famous over it. Travis Walton and the like.
Oh
Their
yeah.
lives get ruined because of it, because they went out there and were willing to talk about it, and people just hassle them and make fun of them all the time. I mean, it's just the way it goes. And I will say, pet psychics are a little more rare. I do love talking to them because they always have the best stories about animals they've helped. I mean, I've had ones that talk to tigers. I've had ones that talk to snakes and alligators. Like it's and fish even. I've had one talk to a fish, and I'm like, fish don't have that big a brain. How? And I'm like, how can you even like speak with their minds? And they're like, well, it's mostly images, but they can show you what they're scared of. They can show you what
Aw,
I mean,
that's
and
tight. It's kind of
so I
cute.
mean, it is. I mean, pet psychics are amazing to talk to. It's one of my favorite topics of my show is pet psychics because I love animals. So
Yo,
I
go on. Continue on that. Like, give me a little more. That's a crazy topic. I've never thought about that.
like the one pet psychic had a great story about she was trying to help this horse, and like this horse would the owner would take this horse on a walk every day, and every time they got near this one house, the horse would freak the hell out and just like he kept running away, and like they kept them to like spend half the day trying to catch it and get it back into the stable. Finally, she took the horse for the walk, the pet psychic did, and when they got by this house, she saw an image in the horse's mind of a tiger. And it turns out in the person's garage, which was open some days, was a stuffed tiger, like an actual, what do you call it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Taxidermy.
Taxidermy tiger. And it literally scared the horse. It's because the horse assumed it was a real animal, and it would make the horse freak out.
Hell yeah,
It's an
instinctually.
amazing, it's an amazing story. I mean, it's just if this psychic didn't come along, who knows what could happen to this horse? Like, and I
Yeah,
think
and
the reason
imagine.
I think the
No, go
reason they
ahead.
actually
Finish it.
called, I think the reason they actually called the psychic because the horse actually hurt its leg while running away from this one time.
Wow. Wow. That's crazy. Yeah, and that's nuts because like what is the emotion so strongly that it would impression on somebody, right? Like an image. There has to be some kind of correlation there with like trauma or like fear on
I'm,
impressioning that.
I'm sure. I mean, it's a natural instinct for any animal. If they see a brightly colored big cat with claws, they'll freak out and be scared. I mean, same as we would if we saw it in the wild. If we see a tiger in our backyard, we're gonna freaking run for the hills.
For sure.
Same as a bear, mountain lion, or anything. But
I'm just trying to get to like what would cause the impression though for the psychic. Like you know what I mean? Like it's that emotion specifically maybe. Like
well, I mean,
a desperate reach out almost.
well, it's not even that. It's just pet mediums, pet psychics have the ability to just kind of tap into any animal's brain that they focus on, and they don't even have to be in the same room or near it. I I had them like tell me some things about my dogs when they're across the StreamYard screen. They're not even in the same state as me, or even in the same part of the United States, and they can tell me like what my dog is, why my dog is acting a certain way at a certain time. Like they just reach into its mind and can sense it, same as a regular psychic can reach out to somebody through Zoom and be able to tell what's on their mind. I mean, I've had psychics reach out to me through when I'm doing a podcast with them and just say, that thing you're thinking about right now, it's not a big deal. Stop worrying about it so much. And I'd just be like, whoa, that's trippy.
That's super interesting, especially because like in what I'm reading right now, it also talks about how like even conversations can be psychic within themselves. Like it keeps the flow going, right? And since we're on the animal topics, there's a poultry example for farmers where they have a chick and then they have the black one that's trying to impregnate it, and that whenever they put it in the coop with all the other ones, that one will go to the edge. Basically, imagine like a dance, and one is on the other side, and the guy's on the other side staring at it. And as the
Yep.
guy approaches the chicken on the other side, it'll make its way into the crowd and then try to disappear and get along the side of the wall because it knows the intention of trying to impregnate it. But it's super interesting to think about how, like, yeah, like animals know what you're trying to do to them before you even do it. The other example was cats know your emotions and your feelings and they resent you for it. I was like, wait, what? Like, how much time do these people have back in the day that they didn't have technology? They're just literally studying our emotions and feelings in animals to
I,
document it, though,
I
experiment on
mean, well, cats are dicks to begin with, but
it.
it's just the fact that cats are intuitive. They're very smart, and they can sense emotions like any animal can. Animals read emotions. That's how they tell. Like when I want to put my dog back in its cage after it's been outside or after it's been loose for a little while, they know it's coming. They will try to avoid you. They'll run away from you. They'll play games with you, and like my dog will literally run to the other side of the basement and like front up and like false charge me and everything, and I have to literally just grab the chain and be like, all right, come
Yeah,
on now. Like
yeah,
it's like you
yeah.
gotta go back in and eat your food and go to sleep. It's that time of day. So it's just it's what it is. That's the way animals are. They're very emotional creatures, and they most of them at least. And I mean, I mean, the only ones I would say are lesser are maybe. Even snakes have a freaking mind to some degree that they mainly live off like fear and emotions, but that's why they avoid humans completely because they know what we're there to do. We're most likely going to
Damn.
kill them because they're snakes. They poisonous or not. We don't not everybody knows the difference. And I hate snakes, so if I see one, it better run away fast because I will take care of it because I don't want it in my yard. Like it's just the way it is. I don't like snakes. It's been a phobia of mine since I was a kid. I'm not a fan of them. So
I feel that. I feel that. That is interesting though, because they make the whole reptile argument for the brain, right? And then you're talking about how it's emotion and fear that they
I
operate on.
but yet the person who read the alligators when they were in Florida one time, like alligators are very primal minded. Like they've been around for so long that they don't really fear anything because they're apex predators. They have been
They're
for
like dinosaurs, right?
since the dinosaurs. They've been apex predators. They were bigger back then. They would take down a dinosaur with how big they were back then. Kind of like that one in Jurassic World. But
That's a
I
good
mean, it,
example.
it's just they don't really have fear. They just are kind of there. They said like they're kind of there. Like they all have images in their head, but they're just kind of there and they're just kind of surviving. That's all they do is like they just live because they live for a long time.
Considering how different the world was, whether it's the actual atmosphere, like, because you're kind of hinting at, animals being different size and things, but what are your thoughts on like maybe like the Egyptian civilization or like other civilizations at the time, like how they might have viewed these animals? Like, is it way more like synchronous, like they're in shock when they come across an animal? Like, do they really take everything
Uh,
as symbolism and literal?
well, if you're talking about Egyptians especially, they worshipped gods based on a lot of animals that they saw on a daily basis, whether it be Sobek, the alligator crocodile god, or gonna not remember the rest of the names, of course. I haven't played Assassin's
Yeah,
Creed
yeah.
Origins. I haven't played Assassin's Creed Origins in a while, but
That's the
uh,
best
I,
one.
it's up there. But they had a hippo god, they had a bird god, a crane god. They had all these different gods based on the animals that they saw on a regular basis, and Egyptians revered the crocodiles and the hippos and all these creatures, even the lions and tigers that were running around because they knew to be scared of these creatures. They knew don't freak with a hippo, don't freak with a crocodile. You don't want to do that because you're not going to live, especially back then because humans were a rare sight back then because we weren't overtaking nature back then. We were just living with it. So
Would you imagine that it probably wasn't a desert either?
parts of it were not a desert. Parts of it, I actually had a guest on my show who he believes him and his, I guess his co-founder, they both believe they found the primary city of Atlantis in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that. I don't remember which
And
podcast, but I've heard the concept.
yeah, I'm sure he's been on a bunch of podcasts talking about it, but because he wrote a book about it. But yeah, the primary city of Atlantis used to be in northern Africa, and it's it makes sense though because that Africa was once all jungle. It wasn't until millennia later that it turned to deserts, and just naturally, nothing to do with any man destroying anything. It was just naturally turned to a desert. The rivers and lakes dried up, and it just turned to a desert. I mean, that it happens to every landscapes change over time. That's the way life goes. That's the way the Earth goes. So, I mean, if it's a desert now, and there might have been some wars and battles fought there. Who knows? There's a lot of theories that go into Atlantis. I mean, a lot of people believe that Atlantis was a huge extraterrestrial site where they experimented on humans as well as other creatures and made hybrids. So, and there's also beliefs about wars between different extraterrestrial species back in the day in that area.
If I'm not mistaken, wasn't the genetic breeding like supposedly one of the reasons like God was smiting us? Because we're pretty much near that point. Is why I'm saying that.
I mean, well, one, that depends if you actually believe in God. If you believe that if there is a creator or a God or a
I guess I just mean a universal karma. Isn't karma was what I was getting at, you know?
I mean, I don't think universal karma really cares what we do too much. I think it's just, I mean, yes, us destroying the earth, that might be some karma coming to us eventually. And I think it already is with global warming. But I don't know. I mean, there are stories of Atlantis and like the battle between the Anunnaki and the Reptilians and the Palladians and all these other extraterrestrial species that a lot of people believe in, and a lot of people have seen proof of it. Like it's creepy in a way almost, but it's just mind blowing that these things could have all existed at one point in history.
First of all, what's creepy about it? And then second, do you believe in free will?
Oof, two different questions completely. I mean, what's creepy about it is the fact that we could be just a slave race created by extraterrestrials to do their bidding, or brought here by extraterrestrials to do their bidding. We could be from another planet originally. Who knows? It's a hard thing to decipher. There's a lot of different theories on it, but the way I put it is
like an abandoned kid. It's fucked up.
Basically, I mean, it's just, I mean, there's a lot of theories on it, and the UFO investigators I had the other day in the book they wrote, they kind of have a theory that once the Great Flood happened, which the Great Flood happened in every mythology known to man, so it definitely happened at some point. Everything, I believe it's 120 different ancient histories that the Great Flood has mentioned it, so it definitely had to happen because there's just no denying it at that point. I don't think it was a white man named Noah with a freaking boat, or maybe maybe there was, because every mythology structure has a savior who has some kind of craft that he brings animals into and people into. So maybe it did happen that way. Who knows? But I mean, as far as free will, I mean, I believe we have free will to a certain point, but at a certain point, I believe there's fate, and kind of like in the Disney movie Hercules, you see the three fates cutting the threads in the underworld. And
about to grab this microphone because that was such a good fucking analogy or metaphor. Like,
I use it all the time. Good. It's one of my favorite metaphors to use for fate. But I mean, I think there really are those.
That movie's good. I think the movie's just so good.
Movie's classic. But the fact that I think there is these golden threads of fate that you can't cut. Like they're things that are gonna happen, good or bad to you, and you can't change it. The other ones, yeah, you could, if you use free will to go the different way than they thought you were going to, that thread gets snapped in half and it's not going back that way. But that could be a good thing or a bad thing. Who knows? Who really knows? But
kind of like a collapsing timeline in a sense, like you're choosing some other thing that option closed off, some kind of weird branch of options.
Exactly. I mean, that's what it is. You're more, I mean, for good or for bad. I mean, it could be a really good thing. You could have just stopped yourself from going down a road that would have been horrible. But you also could have stopped yourself from having something great because you chose to go a bad way, and that just screwed up your free will, screwed up your fate, and you could have had a better fate.
So fucking subjective too, because I feel like people will blame anything on that, you know?
I mean, the way I look at it is, what if Bruce Wayne didn't make his parents leave the theater that night? What if he actually stayed through the whole play, and they just went out the front entrance instead of the side entrance, and there'd be no Batman?
I didn't think about that at all. That's a good ass point. Damn, that's a good point.
And yes, folks, he was seeing Space Jam in that theater.
Oh my god. That's good. All right, let's move on to some questions here that I got for you.
Mm-hmm.
can you share like some crazy pivotal moments in your life that were just transformative? You know, it doesn't have to be paranormal, but if anything stuck out that shifted your path.
Starting the podcast, honestly, probably was the biggest pivotal moment in my life because I I was always opinionated. Anybody who would listen, I would tell my opinions to, but I mean, I just never had a real platform to do it. And since I started podcasting in November of 21, it just changed my life completely. Like, I became more known in this world than I ever was before. I, at one point, had over 1,000 followers on Facebook. I'm trying to build that back up because I had to take that one Facebook and start another one for different reasons. But I mean, on Twitter, I got 1,500 plus followers, and I get retweeted and liked all the time because people like what my shows, people like what I have to say, and it's a bigger world than I ever knew. I know people from all around the world now that I'm talking to on a regular basis, and I never was the type of person that had friends. Like I never was the type of person that had like tons of friends to hang out with, and it's just a whole network of people now that actually give a shit that I'm alive and give a shit that I'm and what I do. It's not like it used to be where it was just me and nobody else really give a shit.
I think even more so what you're saying is like the like-minded aspect, right?
I mean, yeah, they're definitely it's people who have opinions as me. I mean, I'll voice an opinion about a certain movie, and someone else will be like, "Oh, I hate that freaking movie too." Thank God, I never heard anybody else say they hate that movie. Hashtag Princess Bride. But
What? That's a good one. I love it. That's good. I haven't thought about that movie in forever.
oh, I hate that fucking movie with a passion. The same as I hate Spaceballs.
Ooh, I'm trying to think of the Princess Bride right now because damn, a lot of unrealistic. Never mind. Uh, let's keep going. Um, any advice for someone that's like, well, you know what? Since we're on podcasting, like you can talk about how it's actually changed your life because it's been only been a few years, right? And I think a lot of creators that I talk to are super hesitant or they think it's kind of futile to start.
I mean, it's not easy by any freaking means. I mean, yes, anybody can grab a headset and a mic and go record. It's not a hard thing to do. Creating the content is the hard thing to do. Talking about something that people actually want to hear can be a little hard. I mean, I got episodes out there that had no listens for a long time until I got more popular, and then people went back. But it's just the way it goes. I mean, the biggest thing I always say about podcasting is you gotta do it because you love doing it. Do not do it for money. Do not do it for listeners, because guess what? Neither of those are coming your way anytime freaking soon. And
It's true.
you got to put yourself out there. If you want to start a podcast, before you start a podcast, even you should start guesting on probably 25 to 35, 40 podcasts before you even start, just to say. Then you can advertise, yeah, I'm starting my own podcast soon. It's gonna be blah blah blah, this and that. But you need to get out there and make sure that you can actually talk on a mic without stuttering, without being nervous. I mean, yes, you'll get over all that eventually, but you need to do it somewhere. And yes, you're going to have people get pissed at you because that's the way you talk at that point, but you need to get past that. You're going to find people who are just like happy to have you on. And especially if you're talking good stuff, if you're making sense of everything, then they're going to be happy to have you on and they're just going to deal with it. They'll deal with it. And I've guessed on probably, God, I can't even, 150, 200 podcasts at this point that are not my own or my friends even, because I just put myself out there. I went on websites like Matchmaker or Podmatch, and I put myself out there and got people on my shows and got on their shows as well. And I found followings, I found networks that wanted me to join because they heard me on someone else's show, and they're like, "We need this guy in our network. He has some good opinions and he has some bad opinions, but we need him on our network because he's entertainment."
Hashtag WWE. I'm just trying to finish off on your last line. Entertainment.
Don't get me wrong. I haven't watched WWE since it was WWF, but
damn, WCW day, all that was good. Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Wrestlers, because we're talking like what NWA at the time, like Steve Nash,
Kevin
Steiner.
Nash.
Oh yeah. Now, wow, I just crossed basketball. That's crazy. Yeah. What are your thoughts on actual gurus? Because I was like super into like the way India can meditate and then, you know, clairvoyantly know what somebody's going to do in their life path when they're approaching, or they know about them before they come.
I mean, as far as gurus go, I mean, the Buddhist Taoist Lama I had on yesterday was kind of a guru in a way. I mean, gurus are not so unique anymore though, because gurus are everywhere. Every spiritual belief system, every spiritual practice has gurus. I mean, a lot of them are charlatans, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of charlatans out there in every profession in the spiritual world. That's just the way it goes, but there are the real ones out there who wants to people to do better and want to guide them. So I mean, it's just the way it goes. It's just some of them are going to be fake, some of them are going to be real. But I mean, life coaches are a big thing nowadays, especially in the podcast world. And what's a life coach but a guru?
Good ass point, actually. What are your thoughts on the actual abilities? Just because India in itself is probably maybe the oldest culture when it comes to this.
India, yeah, I mean, they have an interesting history. I did a lot about their history in college, and I did a lot of classes on it. And it's very, their spiritual beliefs over there are becoming more worldwide known now. I mean, hell, even the Beatles came back from there with a completely different worldview. So, I mean, yeah, the acid didn't hurt with that either. But it's just the way it goes. I mean, India. The whole Eastern world has different medicine beliefs, spiritual beliefs, and it's interesting because they don't put all their money into these doctors that go and get degrees like we do. Like everything they do is you need to work on your mind. That's where all your illnesses come from is your mind. It's not your body. I mean, sometimes yes, it will be, and they say that's when you need Western medicine. But a lot of it comes from the mind. A lot of it is anxiety and stress and depression, and you can work on that by meditating and by chanting and getting your chakras cleansed out with some Reiki. I mean, which I'm a huge fan of Reiki. But I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it nowadays. What's it called? My God, I'm gonna Acuverde. Yeah, Acuverde yoga. I mean, there's a lot of different. The amount of yoga types there are is freaking ridiculous. I've talked to some yogis, and the amount of yoga types there are right now, which is really said like yoga's more than downward dog. What?
Yeah, I didn't think about that either. Especially because everybody downplays it in terms of how easy it is or how hard it is because you're not moving very much, right?
Because we westernized it. We made it about we made it about getting boba smoothies and girls in tight pants. That's what we made it about because that's what America does to everything.
Damn,
So
that's
I mean,
true.
we Hollywoodized it. And once the celebrities in Hollywood start doing something, everybody wants to do it. So, but the original yoga is about freeing your chakra and about loosening up your body and making everything flow better. That's basically what it's about. And yes, it also is a form of meditation because you're slowing down your thinking while you're doing it. That's why it's slow because you're not supposed to be doing it fast. I mean, yeah, hot yoga is a whole different thing that Western society created, but well, not really actually because they had steam lodges and sweat rooms in India and all those countries as well, going back thousands of years. So, I mean,
What are your thoughts on then? Like, I know this is kind of vague, so I'm just going over 3 different topics, but like crystals, talking rituals, maybe organite, all these different things. Like, do you have any thoughts on any of them?
I've had people on my shows who live by their crystals. Oh, this crystal holds good energy. This crystal, I push some bad juju into this crystal, and I don't touch it anymore. Now it just sits there holding the bad energy. And I personally don't put any stock into it. I don't own crystals. I don't think they really, really work. I mean, I think it's all more of a placebo effect. I think it's your mind thinks it's working, so it's working to you. It'll work for you because you think it's working. Same as any placebo effect with medication or whatnot. It's just because you believe it's working, it's going to work. It'll make you feel better. If it's your safety blanket that you want to have a crystal because it makes you feel better, go ahead. You're not hurting anybody. You're not stabbing anybody with that crystal. At least I hope not. So I mean, you're not hurting anybody. So
What about just how Organite's used though? Like they compact it, boat resin, and then if we like study them, right? They're supposedly giving off frequencies. You can like electromagnetic test it and stuff. But 1950s, I think, is when Wilhelm Reich invented like an Organite accumulator where you could sit in this box and it would basically cure you. But my point is like, yeah, there's different types of ways that you can utilize these things. So I'm curious if you think that's all like pseudo.
I don't think it's all pseudo. I mean, at the end of the day, it really is just all natural material from the earth, and we don't know everything on Earth can do. We don't. why would we? We don't pay full enough attention to anything like that, most of us at least. And people find new uses for plants and certain minerals every day. Why wouldn't some of these have abilities, especially if they were originally from a comet or from extraterrestrial space somewhere? Why wouldn't they have extra abilities?
Do you have like a favorite story in terms of like you notice how all these Indian pictures from the past are conveying like I don't want to say craft coming down, but clearly they're discs, some kind of flying objects. Do you have thoughts on this?
I mean, UFOs have existed for a long, long time, so I every civilization has stories about crafts coming down. I mean, I mean, let's go back to the Egyptians even. Look at them like telling stories of, oh, these gods came down in a chariot from the sky. What now? That sounds a little bit like extraterrestrial UFOs to me, but so I mean, I 100% believe in extraterrestrials, and I think they've been around for a long time, guiding humanity to get us further into the future. I think to this day, I still believe that the Nordic aliens, Norse extraterrestrials, are guiding us to this day. They're still teaching us how to do things.
What do you believe the intent would be? Do you think it's the common word self-destruction aspect of everything?
I mean, Marvel did a storyline a long time ago, like 10, 15 years ago, where all the different alien races in their universe met, like the council of like the greatest leaders met, and they were talking about Earth, and like Earth is a backwards dirt planet with these primal civilizations on it. We do not. Nobody is allowed to go mess with them. Nobody because we don't want them coming up here and destroying us like they destroy themselves. And I think that is somewhat based on reality. I think Stan Lee knew something when he started Marvel. I think he knew something because a lot of the ideas he had for extraterrestrials and all that is way too similar to what is kind of true. So I
You
don't
feel like
know. I
we're
think
kind of quarantined in that sense then?
we are. I mean, we're a backwoods planet. We really are. We're these extraterrestrials, ultra terrestrials, wherever they really are, whether they're from another dimension or from another planet or they travel through dimensions, who the heck knows? But they have just the fact they can travel anywhere in a ship like that, they have way more technology than we have at this point, and then we probably will have for another 200 years at least. I mean, yeah, we got drones. We're still far away off from having a flying saucer.
You don't get annoyed that like they wouldn't consider communicating in that aspect? Like,
Oh,
is it like
they have.
a squirrel in the backyard kind of analogy?
I think they communicate plenty. I think Valiant Thor visited Eisenhower and the Pentagon for 2 weeks, and back in that was the 60s or 70s, whenever the hell Eisenhower was in office. But I mean, I think extraterrestrials have been to Area 51 or 2, wherever you believe really exists. I believe that they meet with certain people on Earth all the time. I mean, I've met people on Earth who I've met people on my show. I had people on my show who communicate with aliens on a regular basis. I had one woman who believes that she's in a relationship with an extraterrestrial.
You know, the most annoying aspect is probably just the multi-dimensional part, I think.
See, it's annoying. It can be, but I find that it's
Because that means you're just walking in the room suddenly, you're just in the room and you're just talking to him. And that makes it probably like very sci-fi, hard to believe, you know?
I mean, it makes more sense though than them flying light years through the sky in order to get to us. It makes more sense that they could just, I mean, look at Bigfoot, because Bigfoot and extraterrestrials and UFOs are always found in the same areas. Whenever there's a UFO sighting, there's usually a Bigfoot sighting around the same time. Because, I mean, I've talked to people just the other night who believe that Bigfoot is actually a protector of UFO layers, UFO basically garages on Earth for extraterrestrials, bases.
Interesting. That's a funny one. That's a good one. I've never heard that. It's
Well, because I mean,
wouldn't discount it.
I mean, because there's a lot of sightings of Bigfoot in America, like, but where they're mostly populated, according to the sightings, is also places that UFOs have been seen by the dozens, and he is known to be like a UFO hotspot.
So what are your actual like official thoughts on Bigfoot? Because most people just disaccount, you know.
Well, since my guest the other night told me something I hadn't heard before, and there's actually a scientist out in California who there's a lake or river out there or a pond, something like that. Actually, it's a lake or a pond because it's enclosed, but she takes the water and she tests it to see what different urines are in it, as one of the main tests she does in that area. And gee, what she lo and behold find but there's urine in it of an unknown primate. And in the same area, in the same area, a guy came around the corner of his house. He lives in like wooded area, and he saw what he believed was a Bigfoot, right? And the Bigfoot ran smack dab into the side of his house, which is the funny part. And then just like a bear would, and then the Bigfoot like ran the other way and ran off to the woods. Guess what this guy had? Clumps of hair that were stuck to the siding of his house.
Oh,
And
damn.
he brought them to this same scientist, and she tested them. Oh, look, unknown species.
What?
And I fully believe that the government, and there's plenty of stories of the government interacting with Sasquatch or Bigfoots and hiding the evidence. I believe Bigfoot have existed since the beginning of at least humanity, if not time. So I
So
believe
what
they've been around forever.
do you think? I honestly don't even know what to think. So I was like under the impression it could be interdimensional, but you think this thing just runs hella fast and it's super elusive? What is the
I think they also
consensus?
for a long time I fought the facts that they could be ultra terrestrial. I didn't like the fact that they could be, and it kind of pissed me off for a while. But the more and more I talk about it with people, it makes more sense. Like, and people have seen them like stepping in and out of portals. Like,
Oh shit. That is some real stranger than fiction shit if true, you know, but they do say the world is weirder than we can imagine, right?
it has to be. I mean, if this world truly is all we can see and hear, then it can't be. It can't be. We're not advanced enough to even hear and see everything. So why would it be only what we can see and hear?
One of the things I'm reading right now in this book you just reminded me is that objects and places hold memory. And do you have any items or like experiences where you're like, you know, flashed to a time period or like provoked?
Not so much, I'd say. I mean, yeah, I can drive by an area that I used to work in like 10 years ago, whatever, and be like, oh yeah, look how much it changed. But I mean, it's just I have the memories I have
That
there.
doesn't count.
I mean, I have the memories I have there regardless, whether I'm in that location or
Yeah.
not. I mean, certain areas, yes. I mean, I truly believe there are people who can do that and can kind of feel what the nature felt at that time, but I think you have to be connected to nature a lot more than I ever will be or want to be to do that. I hate nature. I am not a nature person and I'm not an outdoorsy type at all. I rather stay inside and podcast or watch TV. But I don't want to go outside.
I feel that. I feel that. I'm the same. Is there like a particular book, maybe like a mysticism book that you find most compelling? Because there's so many, right? Different cultures, different religions.
I mean,
You got a favorite?
I don't have a lot of time to read anymore with everything I do with my actual full-time job and podcasting and
Yeah, yeah.
raising kids. But I mean,
Just what you find most compelling, maybe. Not so much
I mean,
Reddit, you know.
I I mean, the Kama Sutra is always good, but I have a copy of that in my living room. But I mean, yeah, there's a lot of different books out there. I mean, I have stacks of books that people that have been on my show that wrote the books sent me the books. They signed them and sent them to me. And I promise you all, one day I will read them all when when I'm retired and have time, maybe, or when I'm on vacation sometime. Maybe I'll actually read one or two. But there's a, I mean, Eleanor Wagner actually, she wrote a lot of haunted books about New Jersey because that's where she's from. She was one of my first guests on my show, and she's been on twice now, and she's been on a bunch of specials I've done. She goes around and she gets stories from people in her area, New Jersey originally, and now she's in a different state completely because her husband retired, and she started writing books for that state. But it's all books about hauntings, and there's Bigfoot encounters in there. There's even a Jersey Devil encounter or two in there. So it's I've read some of her books. They're interesting. Like I've read the encounters in them, and they're really really good ones. So
Yeah, one of my most like favorite parts about this kind of topic in general is like you can get in super deep into UFOs or abductions or even mutilations, right? And then you'll find later that a lot of these authors have like spoken to each other or they've corroborated each other's research or they're on panels speaking. It's probably like one of the most exciting parts about like the topic, right? Like different researchers corroborating. So I'm curious if you have like a favorite. It doesn't have to be guest, but like somebody that's like you found most compelling their work in general.
well, actually, that's easy because it's the man himself who got me back into the paranormal. I started listening in 2014 2016-ish, 2017 maybe, to a podcast called Monsters Among Us, with hosted by the great man Derek Hayes himself. And
Damn, I've never heard of that. I'm gonna write it down.
He was nobody. He was just another guy who wanted to start a podcast who was in the paranormal. But he started this great podcast where he invited, because it's not really him talking even, it's just people sending in audio clips of stories they've had. Like basically people just saying in, like, them and their own, calling in with their own voices, telling about encounters they've had with different paranormal subjects. And yeah, he'll tell his opinion in between them. He'll say what he thinks about it. But it became a phenomenon. Like, it became like, he became huge because people loved it. Like, more and more people, like he has the amount of submissions he has to go through on a regular basis is ridiculous. But I mean, it's how you put a show together, so he does it. And there's been a lot of repeat people too who come in and tell multiple encounters they've had. There's just so many amazing stories on there, and that's what really got me back into the paranormal, is hearing people in their own voice tell their encounters, things they either 100% believe happened to them or things they're not sure what happened and they want second opinions. So it's incredible.
Is there like a specific, I don't want to say like document, but like historical aspect that you feel is like super irrefutable that you reference all the time or anything?
Oh, like the one I just said earlier is kind of where I would go with that. I mean, the Valiant Thor incident, there's photos of this. He's a Norse, so he looks like a man almost, but I mean, there's photos of him next to Eisenhower and his daughter. So
What?
There's photos of it.
I'm like, how did that leak? How is that possible?
Because it's just pictures of the president at a press conference.
I'm about to Google this shit. I'm already shook.
I mean,
Valiant, is that how you said it?
Yeah, Valiant Thor. I mean, because he was a Norse, or a Nordic extraterrestrial, so that's what they called him, Valiant. He said his name was Valiant Thor.
I'm so shook.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's not a real name, but it's probably just what humans would hear and be like, oh, okay.
And what's even weirder is, like, if this is true, it's kind of strange that they got books and movies over this to cover it up even more so. It makes me suspicious.
Well, what do they use media and pop culture for more than anything but to cover up things the government has done?
A lot, dude. I'm not kidding. Like, there's so many bands that have been named after projects to cover it, like things like that.
I mean, look at the best example I can think of that is, and this is actually someone who called in Monsters Among Us, but his father was the producer or director of Predator movies, the original Predator movies, and his father. Actually, I'm sorry, no. This guy is the producer, director of Predator movies, but his father was military. And according to him, he based the Predator aliens, the hunters, off of stories his father told him about real extraterrestrials that could turn themselves completely invisible. With technology, of course, but I mean, they could do it.
So strange. Yeah. And we're talking about their own technology, right? We're not talking about ours, because I don't know if you believe it, but supposedly we had it in the 40s, and then we were trying to get it smaller to like a briefcase in the 60s, if that is true, and we're trying to get into a watch size after that. I don't know if you really believe in time travel being real.
Well, I mean, they say time is not a straight line. Time is cyclical. It goes around, and I mean, it's very. I don't think time travel is quite. Let's get a DeLorean and go 88 miles an hour and hop back in time 30 years, but I think it's more people who can astral project, people who can dream. What the hell's the word I'm thinking of? Lucid dream. Like, I think they travel through dimensions when they do that. I think if anybody, they could be the ones that could really actually time travel.
You just reminded me, dude, when I was younger, I used to like get phone numbers in my dreams and then be so pissed when I would wake up when I couldn't remember them, because it'd be something super important that I'd want to try so bad. That's hilarious. Or they would be so vivid that you would want to go back to sleep. I don't know if you ever felt like that.
I haven't actually. I dream nowadays, but I never remember them. For most of my 20s, I don't think I dreamed. I mean, blame it on the greenery, blame it on.
I think that's what it is.
The beer back then, but I mean, I don't know. I just didn't dream, and I would argue.
I'd argue that weed allows you to kind of dream during the daytime while you're awake by making you feel that good. So kind of give it
Sometimes
up. Yeah.
it depends if it depends what you're smoking, but it's
Uh,
just I don't know. I just dreams. When I was a kid, I used to have premonition dreams all the time. Like I used to just dream nothing important, nothing like that movie Knowing or
mhm.
Next. It was just more like, oh, this conversation's that happened in school at some point in the future. And then 3 weeks later, two people having that conversation like right next to me, and I just be like, uh-huh. But nothing I ever needed to know or nothing that was ever important, just useless conversations and or like somebody in my class tripping on something and everybody laughing at them like I'd see it coming and
But don't you hate when people think it's coincidence though? Like I go crazy when people think that there's no such thing as like, you know,
oh,
synchronicity. Everything's just ironic.
oh there's 100% synchronicity in this freaking world. I mean, I happens in my podcast all the time. Like I'll be releasing a old interview as a podcast episode that same day or around that same day. And that night I'll interview someone who is the same exact topic. And it's just they'll tell me something that the person on that last episode told me like exactly word for word, and I'll be like, what? I like, and these are not statements that are
That
like
is weird.
easy
That is
statements. It's
weird.
just it's statements that are so specific. They have to be some kind of synchronicity.
I'm curious how you think like our environment actually influences like the actual beliefs that we have. 'Cause I was gonna go into like common misconceptions in like mysticism and stuff because a lot of people get tangled, but I was trying to get your first broad overview and then I was gonna go into common misconceptions.
I mean, do I think that nature affects the way we see things? Of course. I mean, you metaphorically speaking, from mysticism, we use nature constantly to describe things. I mean, vision like a bird, or as solid as a tree. Like it's just what we do. It's how we speak of things because that's what we've been dealing with nature for thousands of years, and it's how we live our lives is comparing things to nature. So of course we're going to bring it into our mysticism and everything else as well because you also get power from the earth. With Reiki, the first thing your Reiki instructor will tell you to do is imagine roots from the earth coming up and going into your feet and feel Mother Earth's glow go into you.
Damn.
I mean, it's just
Interesting.
you're using the energy that's already there. You're just summoning it, kind of.
Yeah, I've always been that's probably the main one that I've been super interested in that I haven't like learned anything about. But that's like very maybe because it's not Western world taught at all. We don't know much about it.
It's not because in the Western world, it's run by insurance companies, and they just want you to spend money on all these pills that are going to supposedly fix everything that's wrong with you. When a lot of things that are wrong with you can just be fixed by clearing out your chakras, I should say, and by positive energy. Positive thought and energy can do so much for people that they don't understand. If you keep having these negative and disturbing thoughts all the time, you're just making your mind get clouded and befuddled, and nothing you do is going to ever work out for you because your mind's not going to let it. You're too much of a pessimist. You need to look on the bright side and embrace that good things are going to happen. And guess what? Uh, I just lost the damn word I was thinking of, but manifestation is real.
Yeah, I agree
If
with
you
that.
if you sit there and say, "Oh, I'm broke. I'm never going to have money to do what I want to do," yeah, you're not going to because you have no drive to do it because you're just saying that to yourself constantly. If you manifest it and say, "I'm gonna, I'm gonna get $40 say I need," guess what? 10 to 1, you're going to find some way to do it. There's going to be something that comes up, whether it's a friend or relative that wants to help you out of the blue, or you find $20 on a freaking grocery store floor and grab it. Like, and there's no one around that it could be, so you take it because you're trying to be a good person, but there's no one around that could have dropped it, so you just take it. I mean, things have a way of manifesting and working out if you just believe they will.
Yeah, I'm curious. I know we're jumping around here, but do you think we're off planet already? Like we're just keeping it low key and not really communicating that with population? Is it
You
possible
mean
that we've been off planet like other whether it's another space station or maybe we've been on Mars and never told anybody? Just I'm playing around with ideas here.
I think it's I don't know. I mean, there's a reason. I mean, I tend to be one of those who debates whether we actually ever went to the moon, whether the moon landing was faked or whether the moon landing was real, and we were basically told not to come back by what's up there.
Mm-hmm.
Because
That's
we
my
haven't gone
favorite
back to
one.
we haven't gone back to the moon yet. So, and and we've shot missiles at it. NASA has, and it rang like a hollow object would, like a Death Star type object might.
Isn't that a theory that you're talking about where they launched supposedly 2 separate missions at the same time? We just only knew about one.
I've heard that theory as well. That's not really the one I'm talking about. I mean, the one I'm talking about, basically what it's based off of is the look on the astronauts' faces when they came back. They either knew it was fake and they were trying to hide the fact that it was fake, and the government told them, you better keep quiet and just play along. Or something up there told them, they saw something up there that told them, like, don't come back. Or try to convey it to them in some way, and it scared them so much that you could see that in their faces as well. There's fear in their faces. I don't know why there's fear, but it's one of those 2 reasons.
That's crazy. I never considered like analyzing their actual reactions. That's crazy, and I'm sure it exists. There's way more.
And what's his name? Not Neil Armstrong, but the second guy,
Buzz.
Buzz Aldrin. He's come forward and said some things in the recent years before he.
Is
I'm
that
not
what
sure
that little kid that he's talking to?
Yeah, I mean Buzz Aldrin has come forward in a few interviews that a lot of them have been kind of hidden from the public, but he's come forward and said like things are not what they seem.
Yeah, he was very cryptic though, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like it was
He
obvious, but also not implicating anything at the same time.
he's scared of the government. Who wouldn't be? They can
But
they can make him disappear.
It's definitely strategic though, right? You think he knows something that he's not allowed to say.
Oh, but anybody high enough in the government or high enough in NASA or the military knows things they're not allowed to say. They have to. There's NDAs. There's all these agreements where they can't talk about real things. I mean, I've had people on my show who will go into. I've had someone on my show who basically talked about that. He found proof of an alien autopsy, and they showed it on TV, but they showed a fake one. They didn't show the real one.
Damn, that's so annoying. Wow, so it's always like a little bit of the fake mixed in with the truth.
That's the best way to deceive people is make the truth seem fake.
Damn. So
I mean, it's gaslighting. That's all they ever do.
do you have any particular favorite movies that you feel are probably pretty accurate to reality?
I mean, besides Predator, which I already mentioned, I think is pretty realistic because I think those creatures do
Really?
exist. I mean, I don't think that were they hunting our soldiers in different countries in different wars. I don't know. I've heard stories in my shows about extraterrestrials being involved in our world wars to some degree. I've heard about
Damn.
extraterrestrials having a conference and being at a conference in Paris in the 60s. And there was a huge conference between different extraterrestrial races and humans, but they were all in disguises or camouflage of some kind so that people didn't see them like on the streets and stuff. But
Interesting.
it was a highly secure, militarized conference. So who knows? I mean, as far as I can't think of any movies at this point that I think are 100%.
It's pretty out there though, dude, because you're basically implying that like people among us are walking among us that technically just could be in another form.
I
You
mean,
believe it?
look at Reptilians. Look at all the videos there are of news anchors and like people find the perfect moment where they pause it and their eyes close like this, not like
The slit,
this.
yeah.
Like their eyes are slits and I mean people have
How would
supposedly
you
gotten.
describe that though? But how would you describe that? Are they like slipping? Like what is that? Why would they
It's a
fade
moment
like that?
because it's a momentary lapse. I think it's just a momentary lapse and like they're either tired or who knows and they just slip up for a second and then they catch themselves and they don't do it again. But it's just, I mean, reptilians have supposedly been around for a long time and they can they can disguise themselves as humans. So, I mean, I think that TV show V was actually somewhat based in reality. I mean,
What's it called?
V,
Like VEE?
just V, just the letter V.
Oh,
There was
damn, I've never heard of it.
the original series was in the 70s, I think, and they did a remake of it in the 2000s. The remake was pretty good.
Interesting.
I never watched the original, but I heard it was good.
You made me super curious on that one. So do you also find these common, like we're talking about the flood and stuff, we can kind of wrap this up, but I'm just curious on commonalities in terms of all the gods that we've seen throughout history and stuff. When we talk about emerald tablets and things, do you find universal truths that you agree are within the world and that we should be living by, like from things that we read that are ancient?
If you look at a lot of different religions and mythology structures, they all basically have the same messages, and they basically have a lot of the same stories, maybe told a little differently, different names, different scenarios, but they're all basically the same morals. They're all basically the same storyline in a way. So I definitely think a lot of the stuff we know from those times was, I mean, Chariots in the Sky. Like, it's a famous book written in the 50s, 60s, and I mean, it details a lot of proof of how, like, a lot of these mythologies had like gods that were the same, and a lot of these gods came down in chariots from the sky, or they came down these. I mean, even in the Bible, it talks about like when angels coming down, and talks about these bright lights, and like, yeah, maybe it wasn't angels, maybe it was something else. I mean, there's too much strangeness in these old mythology stories and old religious stories, or if you listen to them, like I used to listen to a podcast. I used to listen to podcast Mythology, and I used to listen to Myths and Legends podcast by Jason and Krista Weiser, and a lot of these mythology stories are very similar, very same. I mean, I mean, yeah, once you get down to like the grim level ones that Disney turned to movies, I mean, it's a little bit more fairy tale-ish and not so like actual like life, talking about life, but a lot of the older ones are very creepy. I mean, look at if you never looked into Gilgamesh, look into Gilgamesh, the Mesopotamian mythology. It's one of the oldest mythologies on the planet. But his best friend Enkidu could easily be a Bigfoot or Dogman, based on how they describe him.
What do you mean by that?
They describe this character named Enkidu, who was Gilgamesh's best friend. The way they describe him, he's hairy, he's very tall, very strong. He could easily be a Bigfoot or a Dogman.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew you were gonna say that. That's funny. I knew that was coming.
Like, it's a lot of people have pointed out about Enkidu, and I mean, there's a great flood in that one too. And guess what? Mesopotamian mythology is the oldest mythology on Earth. So,
Damn. What are your thoughts on like Stephen Greer and like charging stuff, like for the app? I shouldn't say stuff, but like I think it's like a fee for the app for CTE to go out and channel and doing these little rituals.
I'm not too familiar with that actually. I'm not. I've heard the name Stephen Greer, but I don't really know much about him. I never really looked into him too much.
It's basically he's got an app that you can go do this method and you'll evoke these orbs to come out. It's pretty nuts.
I mean, ghost lights and orbs are just basically supposedly spirits that don't appear in form. They appear as ghost lights or orbs, and because usually, I mean, the story behind them is usually that they died trying to find their way home, so they're trying to help other people find their way home by just being like flashlight, basically.
Oh damn.
You see them a lot by railroad tracks, like people that die in railroad tracks a lot of times back in the olden days. Like there's a lot of stories of that. There's a lot of stories of them on highways where like hitchhikers have died, or where people got in horrible car accidents and died. Like there's a lot of different stories about those ones.
That's interesting because when I saw my orb, it was over a house where these people had lost a son. It's pretty interesting.
I mean, it easily could be the sun just hanging out still. I mean, not all spirits need to take a form.
So do you think it's like an omni view in a sense? Like if they don't have eyeballs, are they just going, can they see the direction they're moving maybe? Is that what they would be doing?
I think they kind of just float around and then they just have a sense of the world. I mean, or maybe they are just mindless and they're just floating around, but no one can really tell. I mean, ghost lights are strange.
Have you ever seen any?
Unfortunately, no. Because those who want to see don't see. That's how the saying goes, and I find that saying to be so damn true. Because
Yeah.
I live in a I live in a house with spirits. I'm not gonna say haunted because nothing ever really happens where I would consider it like a poltergeist type house, but it's a house with spirits. I never have seen them. Other people have, but I can sense them to some degree because I've had mediums and psychics tell me that I am a empath and I can sense things. but I can't see things. I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not a clairaudient. I can't see or hear things. I don't have spirits talking to me on a daily basis. I can't see them when they walk through the room. I just kind of can sense they're there. Especially
Interesting.
if I'm doing my paranormal show. A lot of times, like I can sense them, and then like at some point during the show or after the show, they'll be like, a medium will be like, there's a lot of spirits around you right now. I,
What?
I've had psychics tell me. I've had psychics straight up tell me like, you have crazy energy. You attract spirits because you have crazy energy, and they could tell that you're gonna not try to get rid of them if they come near you.
That is weird. I'm like, can you talk about living with spirits?
I mean, it's just like living over here. It's just like everybody else lives.
I got a roommate that just like makes noise.
They don't really make noise anymore. When we first moved in, they kind of did because they're getting used to us, or maybe they're trying to spook us out a little bit. Who the hell knows? But it's just they're there. I know they're there. They don't bother us in any way or shape or form. They don't stand there staring at us from what I could see or anything. They just like to watch. They just like to watch.
What's weird is that the only way I might be able to describe the feeling is like a super cold, like left the room, nothing in the
That's
area.
that's the common thing, like that the room turns cold or freezing. I mean, it's not like in the movies where like you're gonna be seeing your breath or anything usually, but
Yeah.
it's the room gets chilly, and it's just because that's
I
what they give off. That's what they give
I
off because
wonder I do wonder if it's a psychological thing too though. Like because you could be in a dark room and the fact that it's dark could make you scared in itself too, you know?
I mean, yeah, I mean humans are meant to be scared of the dark. We've been scared of the dark since we were cavemen walking around, not inventing before we invented fire even. Of course, we're scared of the dark. There are things in the dark. There were things in the dark back then that can kill us. That's a
It's
primeval fear.
true.
That's inbred in our brain with the fight or flight instinct.
It's so shitty, honestly, out of all fears to have. Like as aliens, it's just funny looking at that as a perspective. Like, yo, they kill each other, but they're afraid of nighttime, you know?
Well,
How does it no, continue. Go ahead.
I'll say, what creature wouldn't be scared of the dark? Unless they can see in the dark, any creature is scared of the dark.
Yeah, that's a good ass point. Yeah. Do you have any specific practices or rituals? Like, how do you enhance your own spiritual, mystical life?
I honestly don't on a daily basis. I mean, I worked with a Reiki master for 6 months at one point last year, and she would completely cleanse my chakra every time we had a meeting. She would like just expel her energy like through the screen to me, and because energy doesn't know time or location, that works. And you could feel it work. You could feel the bad energy being pulled out of you. You could feel yourself getting filled with good energy. I literally could bring you
Damn.
to tears. It could bring you to tears. That's the scary part.
So you felt different by the end of it every time?
You feel like the same feeling, I guess, when you take a shower, when you're really grimy and you want to take a shower because you feel dirty on the outside. It's the
Wow.
same thing. Like you feel like the grime is being pulled out of you, and you feel like anything is possible when it's done. You feel like nothing but good vibes.
That sounds like a natural high. Kind of like Coke without doing it.
It's, I mean, I would compare it more to smoking on a fat blunt, but yeah, it is kind of.
I mean, I've never even done it, so I'm just giving a horrible example.
I mean, but it is that kind of feeling. Like it's like you're uplifted. You just feel better. Like you feel like anything's possible, and you like just walk out of the room with a smile on your face, like yay, and you feel lighter in your feet. You feel just like you're walking on air for at least for a few hours.
I find it hard to believe that you said you don't have any abilities, though. Like, not even a slight one as a kid, something you didn't develop, anything.
The house I grew up in was built by my parents when I was 2 years old on land that's not Native American burial grounds or anything like that. So it's just a regular house built, new house. Like nobody ever died there, as far as we knew. So it was just a regular house. So I mean, there was nothing to see, I don't think, and I just didn't have any abilities when I was a kid. Like I just an open mind. Maybe that was my ability, which was an open mind to be able to consider things that other people wouldn't consider even. But I believed in from the first time I read about Bigfoot. I'm like, this thing has to exist. There's so many stories about people seeing
Oh,
it back to the. There's so many stories about people seeing it back to the 1800s, 1700s. Lewis and Clark wrote
what?
about it. Lewis and
I
Clark wrote
never
about
knew
it.
that. No
Lew-
way.
oh,
What?
that's taken out of the actual biographies they wrote. But
Break it down,
Lewis,
please. Give me Break it. Go ahead.
Lewis and Clark wrote about it. Native Americans have multiple stories with different tribes about hairy men coming out of the mountains, and one tribe said they would steal their women and children to eat. One tribe said they traded with hairy men out of the mountains because that's all they
I'm
wore.
in shock.
They were hairy brothers to them. That's all they wore. They weren't anything different than them. They're just another species because Native Americans believe that animals are the same as them, at the same level as them. And there's even stories of Teddy Roosevelt seeing one. The hairy man of the mountain is what he called it.
Damn. So these
So
are clearly not just cavemen like somebody would just rub off. I mean, that's what I keep thinking is like they would have to be exerting some crazy speed or like superhuman like ability to know that it's not just a human, it's not just a freaking monkey.
I mean, it's something different. I mean, supposedly Native American tribes, some of them talk to them, like communicate with them, not like English, or but like some of them could do the same sounds that maybe the Native American Native American tribe spoke. Maybe they can speak the language a little bit because it's more grunts and guttural sounds than we do. Like we don't, they didn't talk the English language where you have to know how to say certain words. Like it's just, and like it's a lot of hand gestures. Like, and I believe that like any primate, they'd be smart enough to do that.
So you agree with the notion that giants existed?
They still exist supposedly in certain places.
Nice.
The Kandar giant was killed by the army in Afghanistan or Iraq, like back 10 years ago.
Was that the video where there's like helicopters swarming and shit? I think. Does that sound familiar?
There was a video, I believe. I think it got taken down pretty fast, but there was a video. There have been soldiers from that troop that have survived that have told the story. But I mean,
what incident? What was that again? I'm just writing it down for my own reference.
the Kandar giant, Khandar, I believe it's spelled. It's a city or town in Iraq or Afghanistan, somewhere over there.
Damn. Wow. Yeah, I'm kind of shook on that one. I don't know why I didn't hear about that. Because
the government doesn't want you to.
If I'm not mistaken, though, they were saying that they could get up to like 32 feet back in the day. Do you agree with that notion?
I mean, I wasn't there to measure them, but it's possible, I guess. I mean, there's been giant skeletons found all over the United States. On these giant mounds, there's been people have dug down them, and farmers dug down them when they were like trying to build their farms. And they find these giant skeletons. But guess what? You call the Smithsonian because you don't know what it is, and next thing you know, oh look, it's gone. The Smithsonian took it, but oh wait, the Smithsonian says, oh, we don't have it anymore. What happened to it? That's classified. Because the government wants to hide shit. That's what they do.
Wow. So you're pretty sure that we've probably known where we come from and how we got here? Like maybe the Vatican has known this and it's just not common knowledge?
I feel like the Vatican knows a lot of freaking things that they will not reveal.
Like origins of where we come from? Like that far?
I don't even know if they really know that or not. I don't. It's hard to say. I mean, I feel like a lot of this was lost in scriptures and books millennia ago. Like they got destroyed by fires in ancient cities. They got destroyed by volcanoes in ancient cities. Like a lot of the records probably did get destroyed by war, by people destroying cities during wars, and a lot of other ways. But natural disasters. I mean, there's a lot of ways that things can get destroyed. So it's who knows what really is still existing. I'm sure there's some old stuff in the Vatican basement that they don't let anybody see. That the only person that knows about it is maybe the Pope.
So if we think of like words being, I don't know, spells, enchanting rituals, whatever, do you think it's possible that they could have maybe words or something that could, like my cousin gives an example of making people invisible, right? Like there could be a spell that makes you cloaked. Do you think that kind of concept is possible?
Possible? Maybe. I don't want to say I fully believe that's possible. I mean, words have power because you want them to have power. That's why they have power. It's because you want them to have power. I don't think they are special words that just do something. I think it's because they want you to have power. Because you want the words to have power. I mean, I think it's all more your mind. It's all more your. I can't think what the hell it's called, but it's your it's what you're intending to do with those words. It's your mindset. It's what you want to do.
I guess intention is the right word. You got it.
It's your motive. I mean, it's what you want to do. I mean, that's why maybe back in the day when supposedly there were wizards, and I mean, I've interviewed witches. I've interviewed a lot of witches, but I think just it's about what you mean to do. It's about your mindset.
You got any compelling witch stories? Damn, like something that convinced you that they're real. You got something?
I I mean, I never. It's not like in fairy tales or anything where you like I met a witch and she's like, "Oh yeah, I cursed an apple and gave it to this person and they ate it and they died." Like all
Doing
the witches,
voodoo.
all the witches I met. Oh, I've had people on who talk about voodoo too, as well, but all the witches I met are always white witches, good witches. Like they use their abilities to help heal people, help people overcome obstacles in their life. But I
That's
don't think
interesting because that makes me think all the bad ones probably don't want to be known anyway.
they don't. They don't because I mean, but heck, I mean, I've been told hex bags exist and they're real. I've been told that a lot of the, I mean, witches have been scared to come out since they got burned for hundreds of years in Europe and the
That's
United
real.
States.
That's real shit. What are your thoughts on? I'm not. This is a funny one, but just the concept of neurodivergent these days, as opposed to GT and all these terms that they have for people with abilities, ADD, ADHD, autism, and go on and on.
I think they're real. I mean, whether it's because of the environment we live in and we did it to ourselves with all these radiation we carry around in our pockets every day with cell phones, or whether it's because we polluted the earth and it's the earth's way of kind of getting back at us, karma in a way. But I don't know. I mean, it just seems like, and or maybe it's this medicine from Western society we're putting in our bodies, or we put in our bodies when we had kids. Maybe all this stuff is causing it, because, or maybe it just is this is forever, and they used to just beat out their kids back in the day. Who the hell knows?
No, but that's a fair observation. We don't even know when we're doing it to ourselves, and then it's hard to stop, anyways, because everything's fucking poisoned.
I mean, yeah, think about the food we eat nowadays. Think about all the pesticides, and I mean, they got rid of DDT for a reason. Not DDT, yeah, DDT, yeah. They got rid of
Yeah,
DDT
yeah.
for a reason. I mean, they got rid of a lot of pesticides a long time ago for a reason, because they were having adverse effects on people.
This is a weird question, but how's your understanding of mysticism evolved?
It evolved just the fact that I actually am more believing in it now than I ever was as a younger person. Like, I used to think it was all hocus pocus and none of it was real. Like, I used to think that life was only what we could see and life was only what we could hear. But when you talk to so many people who believe in it and so many people who can prove it's real, like that can do things that other people can't, it's like there has to be more of this world than we see. The energy in this world is magnificent.
That's a pretty good that's a pretty good way to look at it. Do you have any thoughts on like solfeggio frequencies, or like, I don't know. I know it's a real weird question in terms of, I'm thinking of cymatics and stuff, but I'm curious on how you view these things.
Um, I'm honestly not sure what you're asking about. Even I haven't heard those terms, and at least not to my knowledge.
So cymatics is like the one where they use vibrations and waves to make the sand
Oh,
into like symmetrical shapes, and then solfeggio frequencies are the ones like that the monks were chanting into like specific tones, possibly to get things to levitate, I would imagine.
I mean, I well, energies and vibrations can do things that they naturally do anyway. We're just finally figuring out. We're finally just figuring out how to use it all. That's the thing. We're finally got to the science point where we can figure out how to use it all. I mean, think about it. If they could invent planes eventually that can just vibrate off the ground and go off the vibrations, and that's how they fly, kind of like a helicarrier type thing from Shield. But I mean, kind of that. I don't know. That's kind of the way it goes. So it's just to me, that's just more scientific advancements that we didn't figure out before.
That's a
And
good way
I
to
mean,
put it too. It's true. It's true.
and like you said, the monks, certain monks, and other similar people have been using this theory for a long time and making it work for them. So why wouldn't it continue to work? I mean,
Do you have
supposedly there's monks that can use certain sounds to bring down a mountain. I mean, come on, it's not just the
That's
way it
pretty sick.
goes.
It's pretty sick. Do you have any examples of like your own like predictions coming true?
Well, I mean, I've been saying for a long time that aliens are real, and then look, the government was trying to distract from COVID, so they just say, "Oh yeah, UFOs are real."
That was a little timely, huh? I didn't even really think about that, but that was perfect timing.
They were trying to distract from COVID, and they failed horribly because nobody gave a shit with COVID going on. They kind of buried the lead.
Damn.
Either that, or they were trying to put it out when no one would pay attention to it. So that way, it wasn't be like riots in the streets of aliens are real. What?
What a fucking awesome psyop in that aspect of like, hey, while everyone's pissed over here, let me just drop this on you and distract you.
It's the old classic magician's trick of, oh, see my hand here? See my hand here? You're not seeing what
Yeah.
this hand's doing over here. Like it's just sleight of hand.
Yeah, I also question oftentimes like I'm like, oh, big world event, what's really happening today, you know? Especially for, you know, any sports events. I usually question what's really going on for the distractions.
No, I mean
Sucks.
sports events just happen because they happen because that's how sports work. I don't think it's always a
Yeah, but
distraction. I think it's just life.
bread and circus though, come on. Roman times.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, there are also plenty of people like me who don't really give a shit about sports, and we don't pay attention to them anyway. So if something was going on during that time, we would know about it.
That's true. That's a good point. Dope. Yeah, I think we're wrapping up here then. Any final thoughts on like what it means to be more than rich to you, since that's the podcast theme?
Well, I mean, are we talking rich with money? Or are we talking rich in life?
Yeah, for sure. It's subjective, up to you. That's why it's like, what does it mean to you? The concept of more than rich.
I think you have to be rich, not with wealth, because wealth is fading always. I think you have to be rich with being one with the world you live in, whether it's energetically, whether it's you're one with nature to some degree. I don't think I'm not gonna say go be a tree hugger because that's not gonna do shit. But go be in touch with go be in touch with the world around you. I mean, put your energy out there and find ways to keep your energy clean. And guess what? And I'm not talking like a hippie, like, oh, don't pollute. Like, no, I mean, everybody's going to pollute. That's just life.
Mhm.
But just keep your personal energy clean. Like, if you want to see a Reiki master, see a Reiki master. If you want to go do yoga of some kind, or Kundalini yoga, Ayurvedic yoga, like, take your pick. There's so many different types out there. Like, there's just keep your energy, keep your mojo clean, keep your essence clean, and you'll be fine. I mean, that's when you're rich in that, anything can happen. I mean, manifestation is real. You can make anything you want to happen. You just gotta manifest and work towards it. Don't just manifest. Don't just manifest and sit back and be like, "Oh, it's gonna happen now." No. You gotta work towards it too. But the manifestation just helps it happen because you are putting belief in yourself and you're putting belief in the karma around you that's gonna come back to you.
Yeah, I feel like you are a pretty good example of that too, because you said you've been doing this for a few years until you started to see results, right? Being a podcaster.
I mean, it took a good 6-7 months to see results in my paranormal podcast, and music podcast took even longer. But you just got to get out there and get yourself known enough. Be on other people's podcasts. Put yourself out there on social media. Share your stuff out constantly, and it's all marketing. That's all it is. It's marketing.
I feel it. Any last words on like who to like recommend your work to, or how to find you and stuff like that?
Well, I mean, I could be found in a multitude of places because I am all over social media because of this. But I mean, on Facebook, it's the Uncensored, Unapologetic, and Untamed Podcast Collective, UCubed. On X and Instagram, it's at Juggalo Bastard. And TikTok, it's at Juggalo Bastard Podcast for as long as TikTok's going to be existing now. It might be gone in 9 months when they ban it from the United States finally. Thank God. But
I
it's
hate it too, but as I started adopting it, now they're getting rid of it, so it's kind of annoying. But I hate it.
I mean, but you can also find me on YouTube as Maniacal Music Musings or Paranormal New Normal. Both of my shows are on there. All past episodes are on there. We stream live there. And you can also find me as part of Parapost Network on Facebook, a great home for all podcasts and podcasts of any kind. And you can see all my podcasts streaming there. And I'm also a proud member of Blind Knowledge Network, which is still up and coming, but a lot of great podcasts in that network. So always a good thing to check out.
Which one's your pride and joy though? Like, which one's your favorite?
Paranormal Normal is like my pride and joy. It's my baby.
All right.
I put so much work into starting it. I put so much work into finding guests for it. It's just, but the music one is my pride and joy as well to some degree. But it's more fun. The music one's more fun by far most of the time. The paranormal one is just more educational to me. Like I learned so much of that show from my guests.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, I'm trying to think if we ever did another one, I'd probably come with a bunch of like documented authors and stories to be like, have you heard of this? What are your thoughts on this one? So that would be the next. I'd prepare for something like that.
Sounds good to me.
Dope, man. I appreciate it. It's good to meet you.
Good to meet you too, brother.